Yeah, everybody, my mic was muted. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to do something and I'll be right back. All right, Brent C, thank you for coming and sitting in on this. Brent C, can you hear me? It's a little warm in here. T Riddler, can you hear me? Okay. I live in an older complex, and the AC is not on yet, and it's a little warm here. So I have a fan going, and I'm hoping it's not ruining the sound for this stream. Can you guys hear me okay? Say something there in the chat. Can you hear me? Audio is fine. T Riddler, thank you very much. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start, and then we're going to talk about the WNBA, race, the media, the gender pay gap, economics, and propaganda. All that's going to be rolled up into one. And as per usual, my goal is to finish within an hour. I apologize to those of you who clicked on this on Wednesday night. I had to get up somewhere early on Thursday. I had to get up to go somewhere early on Thursday. And, I had to pack and get things together. And, to do a quality live stream, you need to be completely dialed in. You need to have all of your materials ready. And I just couldn't do it. So there's no harm in postponing. All right. This is going to be our jump off point. Seeking My Creator. I think Seeking My Creator left this comment last Wednesday night when I was supposed to go live. He said, sports don't matter. Engineers matter. Chemists, physicists, lawyers, judges, framers matter. So we have a sentiment here that sports should not have the importance and the stature, the right word. They should not have the importance and the priority that they have in our country, in our society, in our culture. So I'm going to thank you, Seeking My Creator. I don't know if you're watching live now, but thank you for this. This will serve as a good jumping off point. So with that, I'm going to play my intro and then I will jump in. And I promise everyone, this one will not be long. Because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. There's I think our population is there are more women than there are men, right? And those women have a spending power, and so they have the ability to fill those stadiums and to fill those WNBA arenas.
Yep.
And I think that's a part of the conversation that doesn't always get enough spotlight.
Yeah, that's thank you for acknowledging that, because that's something that as I'm driving while I'm on the flight home, I'm thinking about it. I'm writing down my notes for this segment because I didn't plan to do that segment. That just hit me when I was at the game and I saw so much untapped potential. Oh, when I say game, if you go to episode 3, I'm talking about the Las Vegas Aces game that I went to last month. But if whoever's watching, if you've never been to a WNBA game, it's worth your money. But it definitely, that bothered me. Doc, I just don't understand why, with the population being the majority women, why they don't have that, that in stadium support.
Because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. I think that cut off there at the end. Yeah, but that was a conversation I had over on my sports channel. I have several channels, and that was on my sports channel with Coach Terry and Gillette. He's from Buffalo, just like I am. Buffalo Braves, now the LA Clippers, And me and Tyrion has his own sports channel. Snowman's there. He has his own sports channel. Snowman's got some merch now, everybody. So watch out for that Snowman merch. And one of the things in one of the shows I watched, in one of Coach Terry's shows that I watched before I had him come to my channel, he talked about the fact that for the WNBA, they're not getting, up to this point, they have not been getting the female support that the league would need for it to flourish and to become profitable. And I never heard that before. We're going to talk about that later on. But what you're hearing a lot about is they should be paid equally as the men. They deserve to get paid what the men get paid. This is the gender pay gap is being brought into this and shoved together with this whole thing. But when you think about it, if these are businesses, these franchises are businesses, and the play on the court, that's the product. Okay, so if you don't have, and this is all quote unquote a meritocracy. So if you're not generating the revenues that the other league is generating, then no, you're not going to get paid the way that other league is, the WNBA versus the NBA. And I think it's very, very fascinating that what would lift the WNBA, what would lift the WNBA up is more female viewership, but they seem to be having a hard time getting that even 20 some odd years later after the inception of the league. Please smash that like button if you haven't. If you want to donate something to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are here. You guys have heard this before. My Cash App and PayPal are here. Yeah, people, and I've almost missed the news cycle, but Melanie King did something on this, and so I said, okay, well, I'm gonna have some say on this as well, because a lot of people were talking about this. Okay, so that's essentially where the stream came from, but there were some other inspirations from my family circle. I'll say my family circle. Let me make the names vague. So you guys know I'm working on a book. I'm going to be very, very brief here. But this is the latest promotional essay for my book project, The Engineers, a Western New York Basketball Story, which involves basketball. And this is the latest piece that I published. This is the latest promotional essay. Well, now it's the second to last latest. But this essay talks about Delaware Park. And in every city, there's a place where all the hoopers go. I know Snowman knows in his hometown where all the hoopers go. But that's what this was about. And it was written from my perspective. So I didn't know all the players back in the 1950s and 60s and 70s. My research revealed some, but there's no way I would know all of them the same way someone who was born in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s would. So my Uncle Ice, I shared it with him, and he shared it with another relative. And that other relative said, well, he forgot to mention this person. He forgot to mention that person. He didn't mention this. He didn't mention that. So I said, okay. And then he shared it with someone else. I'll call our cousin Leslie. And she said, well, he didn't mention any of the women who played at Delaware Park. Okay. Women played against Christian Laettner and played against Cliff Robinson. Okay. And then my cousin Leslie, I'll call her Leslie, she said something very, very interesting at the end of that. She said, everybody is watching women's basketball now. And I read that and I said, wow. Okay. So everybody is watching women's basketball now. And I leaned back and I read that text message and I said, is that accurate? And I scratched my head. I said, based upon what I know, is that accurate? Is everybody watching women's basketball now? And so when you're dealing with people and they're saying these things, you have to make the choice to either engage and try to refute them or just let them have their day, even though you know that they may not be right. So that was one of my motivations for doing the stream. And that's that, we're in an election year and the propaganda has already started. My mother said at the beginning of this year, you need to do more Black center content. You need to show more data. Well, one of the groups that gets swallowed up by all of the propaganda is Black people. So I think this is a good exercise. I think it's a good look at what messages we're being hammered with over and over and over again, what things aren't true, what things are true, and what things are propaganda. So there are a whole bunch of things that were rolled up into this thing. The Women's Final Four, the WNBA, Caitlin Clark getting drafted, it's basketball, it's race, it's the media, it's the gender pay gap, economics, propaganda. All these things are wrapped up into this. So that's kind of a nice primer for what I'm going to share with you guys. Give me a second. I'm going to load up one more picture here since I'm hearing my mother's voice about doing more Black center content. And I hop around here. You guys know that. Let me just find my Reginald Lewis picture here because I wanted to show this during the stream. You guys keep letting me know what you think there in the chat. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. Where are you, Reginald Lewis? Where are you? Okay, I'll use this picture here. You guys keep letting me know what you think there in the chat. Okay. He's sharing the slide with Shaq and some other guys, but I'll use it nonetheless. All right. So throughout history, a lot of people have had problems with the media. Okay, the media, they seldom, depending upon who you're watching, they seldom give objective coverage of anything nowadays, and they usually have an agenda. So shout out to Rael. I read Reginald Lewis's biography, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? For those of you who don't know, that's Reginald Lewis. Right there, the big picture, that's Reginald Lewis, America's, the United States' first Black billionaire. Well, there's a section of that book where Reginald Lewis described how the media who covered his business victories tried to spin it to say that those victories were not because of him. It's because of they were because of someone who was around him or in the background, probably someone white and not Black. So they didn't want to give him the credit for being the Black genius. Shout out to RBR. They didn't want to give Reginald Lewis the credit for being the Black genius that he was. And so he had his issues with the media. We know what happened during the last presidency. Even Obama had issues with the news media. So they've been at the center of a lot of controversies throughout the years. So for the women's Final Four, I didn't the women's tournament. I didn't really watch the women's tournament up until the Final Four. Okay, when the field started to diminish down to the Final Four. And as I looked at my social media, I was seeing a lot of anti-Iowa comments, a lot of anti-Iowa Facebook posts, a lot of, we got to beat that team. South Carolina's got to beat that team. LSU's got to beat that team. And I think Angel Reese eventually from LSU, they all got drafted in the WNBA, but I think she eventually came out and said, "Hey, look, me and Caitlin Clark, we're not enemies. We're not enemies. I got no problems with Caitlin Clark, but the people on the outside in viewerland were getting charged up and heated up about something." And it turns out, Snowman, correct me if I'm wrong, It was the media coverage. It was the hoisting of Caitlin Clark as being the Messiah, the female Messiah, at the expense of Coach Dawn Staley's South Carolina Gamecocks and Angel Reese and all of the ladies, particularly the ladies of color in the WNBA who've been playing for years. There was a lot of angst and anxiety about Caitlin Clark being hoisted up as the savior and as the angel. Okay. And so you ended up with this Rocky Balboa thing where it's like, we got to beat the white team. We got to beat the white team. We got to beat the white team. And then when South Carolina won, which actually wasn't a surprise, they had the deeper, more athletic team. They went undefeated. I looked at my Facebook page and I saw people, particularly ladies, black ladies, patting themselves on the back. We won. We beat Iowa. We beat the white team. You know, we did that. We beat them. So there was a lot rolled up into that, but it was in large part, I think, the media coverage. But then the question is, why would the media hoist her up like that? Was it strictly race, or did the media and the WNBA see someone that they could market and really, really jettison the league in terms of profit and profitability and earnings? Did we have someone who could finally lift the league up into the stratosphere where it could be profitable, just like the NBA? Okay, so I think that was what's kind of at the center of all this. That female women's Final Four, it was exciting. I did watch. I was hurrying home to take a look at it. That actually got more views this year than the men's Final Four. Okay, I'm going to read this really, really quickly. Let's see. The final game between South Carolina's Gamecocks and the University of Iowa's Hawkeyes averaged about 18.7 million viewers and peaked at a whopping 24 million combined on ESPN and ABC, making it the first time in history that a women's final has drawn a larger TV audience than the men's, according to ESPN. Okay, so they got more viewers overall. The men got, in contrast, the victory of the men's Division I UConn Huskies over Purdue averaged 14.82 million viewers on TBS and TNT. So the women beat the men in terms of viewership this year. Okay, but what about? But what's the issue with the WNBA? They had their draft. Caitlin Clark got drafted. They all got drafted. Angel Reese, they all got drafted. Now what's the issue with the WNBA? Well, after that draft, during that draft, you started hearing all kinds of comments about the pay gap, the gender pay gap. Caitlin Clark should be getting paid what Wemby over in the NBA is getting paid. It's wrong for her to not make what he's making. It's wrong for the female basketball players in the WNBA to not be making what the men are making. So let me say this really quickly. I have nothing against the WNBA. I have nothing against women playing basketball. All right. So that's not where I'm going with this. Anyone who's accusing me of misogyny, you're being a misogynist, you hate women. Nope. That's not why I'm doing this. I just want people to think about this in total and see past the propaganda that people are writing up and people are being showered with. So the WNBA, what's the issue with the WNBA? Why hasn't it been able to generate profit separate from the NBA up to this point? Well, this is the actual snippet of me and Coach Terry talking back in September about the WNBA and who supports it and who doesn't. This is a short snippet, guys. Please hang in there. I promise this is short. We have someone here from the money sector, Alonzo Hall, the all-star advisor. All right. So this is me and Coach Terry talking about support or lack thereof for the WNBA. You know, before we get to the Bills, and I promise we'll do it really quickly, one of the most intriguing things that you said was you're talking about you were encouraging folks to go support the WNBA. Yeah. And you brought out a point that a lot of people, well, that I haven't heard much which is that there's I think our population is there are more women than there are men, right? And those women have a spending power, and so they have the ability to fill those stadiums and to fill those WNBA arenas.
Yep.
And I think that's a part of the conversation that doesn't always get enough spotlight.
Yeah, that's thank you for acknowledging that, because that's something that as I'm driving while I'm on the flight home, I'm thinking about it. I'm writing down my notes for this segment because I didn't plan to do that segment. That just hit me when I was at the game and I saw so much untapped potential. Oh, when I say game, if you go to episode 3, I'm talking about the Las Vegas Aces game that I went to last month. But if whoever's watching, if you've never been to a WNBA game, it's worth your money. But it definitely, that bothered me. I mean, Doc, I just don't understand why, with the population being the majority women, why they don't have that, that in stadium support. And even as far as branding, a lot of these brands choose to put men at the forefront of their campaigns, when if you use some of these WNBA players, especially for a lot of the more commonplace products, man, I think it would just change the game. Just little small things like that. You're talking to the biggest spenders of dollars out there. I can't even come up with the right term right now, but it just doesn't make sense to me why they don't utilize that power of women more.
So you're talking about the biggest spenders of dollars. Okay. It doesn't, it's curious that they would have a hard time filling the arenas. Okay. Why is that? Okay. So I did some more research on that, and I'm going to read this piece. It's brief. I should be able to sprint through it. You guys keep letting me know what you think there in the chat, but I'm going to front it with this one from USA Today. This is the type of thing I was talking about the backlash surrounding the WNBA draft and Caitlin Clark. So this, I'm not going to read this one, but this was from USA Today. So USA Today columnist infuriated over Caitlin Clark's Nike shoe deal, says Black players deserve it. Okay, so again, this has become politicized. It's become about, kind of a Rocky versus Apollo versus Clubber Lang type of thing. The white girls getting uplifted, the Black players are not getting the credit they deserve, and vice versa. So it'll be interesting to see if she does actually play at that same high level in the pro level. A lot of those women are going to be looking for her. She's going to have a bit of a bullseye on her back. So it will be interesting to see if she can repeat that success there. But there's a lot of angst and anxiety surrounding her being the chosen one, quote unquote. So going back to what me and Coach Terry talked about, this article is below in the description box for those of you who want to take a look for yourselves. But this is going back to, this is a couple of years old, right? And it's spelled out right here in the title. The WNBA's biggest problem isn't lack of interest from men, it's women. And then this subheader says the WNBA needs more women to watch in order to stay viable. It's no secret that the NBA has been carrying the league since its inception. The following truth is hard to swallow, but it's the truth nonetheless. The WNBA would be defunct right now if it weren't for the NBA. This was written by a woman. This was written by Lindsay let me read that again. Lindsay D'Arcangelo, a contributor. She's a freelancer. And this is from 2016, so this is 8 years ago. And I'm going to show some data that's going to show that this phenomenon is still going on today. And then I'll wrap the stream up. All right. Snowman, you keep commenting there to your heart's content. Everybody else, keep commenting. Snowman, if you want to throw your merch link in there, I'll put it up. Snowman's got merchandise. Okay. The 20th WNBA season tips off on May 14th. Now, this is 2016. Okay, so this is 8 years ago. Did you know? Do you care? More importantly, do you recognize any of the following names? Maya Moore, Brittany Griner, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird. These women are some of the most talented and skilled professional athletes in the world. Yet outside of WNBA circles, they remain largely unknown. Okay, they remain largely unknown. Why is that? Maya Moore has been compared to Michael Jordan as his female embodiment in women's basketball, and she has her own sneaker line through the Jordan brand. Yet the harsh reality of being a WNBA star, quote unquote, is something even she can't ignore. Last April, she wrote an honest and open essay. All right, I have an ad here. Give me a second. Let me get rid of this ad. Okay. What the? I think I lost part of the article here because of this thing. Let me hold on, everybody. Let me refresh this. Let me refresh that. Okay. Okay, I got it back. All right. Last April, she wrote an honest and open essay for the Players Tribune called Invisibility, in which she talks about all the work, all the hard work she put into to get where she is today, and how disappointing it is that all the hard work goes relatively unnoticed. Okay. That's one of the harsh realities of our society and our economy. You can make something, you can train at something, but if no one comes to watch or if no one supports it, then it could fall flat on its face, like a book or a YouTube channel or a painting. If people don't consume it, if they don't like it, then, what have you got? All right. Please smash that like button if you haven't. All right. It's true and also unfortunate. WNBA players work just as hard as their male counterparts, receive a fraction of the attention, and get paid far less. But they only play a few months in the summer, you might say. Sure, but once the WNBA season wraps, several players head overseas to play internationally. The league's best player, Diana Taurasi, even sat out last year because the Russian team she played for overseas gave her a million reasons not to. The WNBA can't compete with that, and as the 20th season nears, its future lingers in the balance. Well, it's still here. The ladies are still here, so it hasn't gone anywhere. So what's the answer? Is it marketing? Moore thinks so. We need the marketing to match our product, she said in her essay. Celebrate us for the things that matter, the stories, the basketball, the character, the fiery competitiveness, our professionalism. But basketball fans don't really care about the stories off the court or the character or the professionalism. They care about the basketball product, and the product isn't televised as much as it needs to be. The league's best teams aren't showcased like they should be in order to market said product. Women's college basketball gets more televised games than the WNBA, and that's part of the problem. Moore also wondered in her essay why the fans that rooted her on at the University of Connecticut didn't follow her to the NBA. but most diehard college basketball fans are just that, college basketball fans. Once more left, the next crop of talent came up, and UConn has remained a perennial powerhouse. As a UConn fan, why look elsewhere? All right. It's often been said that the main Achilles heel of the WNBA is a lack of interest from men. That's part of the reason why previous attempts to soften the WNBA's image were brought up in marketing sessions by WNBA league heads. I interviewed Brittany Griner a couple of years ago for a magazine story in which she revealed that the league was contemplating shorter and tighter uniforms. This cringeworthy idea would have done nothing to improve the quality of the product, and would have played into the stereotypes that so many female athletes are trying to break down. The fact is, a lot of men don't want to watch the WNBA because they think it's boring. How do I know? I've asked. They are used to high-flying dunks and blocks and fast-paced wheeling and dealing on the court. That's what they want in a basketball game. But the only female baller that can really throw down is Brittany Griner. And guys think she's too manly, but they want dunks, yet they don't want girls to be overly athletic. See the catch-22? All right. I'm not here to rationalize or talk about all the reasons why the men don't watch the WNBA. Graham Hayes of ESPN did that for me already with his well-written piece for page 2 about why men are afraid of the WNBA. Trying to attract men who already have preconceived notions about the WNBA or female athletes in general is fruitless. These are the guys who make fun of WNBA players and then kiss their daughters goodnight and tell them they can be anything they want to be when they grow up. They will never be fans. What I want to focus on is what I believe to be the crux of the WNBA's problem. And it isn't the men, it's women. Why aren't more women paying attention to the WNBA? Why do more women tune in to Scandal or the Real Housewives of whatever for water cooler fodder? Instead, I wrote a column about this, about getting women to care about sports when they simply don't. It's a hard task. I've pitched sports stories to female publications before, and they are just not interested. It's not the right audience, they say. But if women aren't the right audience for women's sports, then who is? All right. So if women aren't the right audience for women's sports, then who is? I'm going to refresh that again because this ad keeps popping up. Okay. I'm going to read some of the comments here. Glad to see you too, Alonzo. Everybody, please smash that like button if you haven't. He says, Snowman. Snowman says, oh, that's easy. The WNBA plays fundamental hoops. The NBA is playing for clips and clicks. Snowman says, I covered the Chicago Sky for 4 years, and the women never came out in droves for the WNBA like they do for the NBA. That has to gain some balance. I'm going to show some data reflecting that as well. He's talking about his merch here. I'll make this announcement. I'll be covering the Indiana Fever of the WNBA. T. Riller says, I was in D.C. today on the Metro. A couple of guys were talking and debating whether they would attend the Mystics game to see Caitlin Clark when the Fever come to town. That's the other thing. Apparently, she has impacted ticket sales. So they're moving games to larger arenas. Tickets are being snatched up pretty fast for her. So as much angst and anxiety as some people have over her being the savior, she is impacting that league already. Now, before I jump back in, I'll be a little bit discreet here, but an Uber driver, I was going to the airport recently for an early morning flight. I was going to the Michigan spring game, and me and my Uber driver, we were talking about the WNBA. And this gentleman said he wants to take his daughters to the games, but he doesn't like some of the energy in the stands. Okay. And I'll just leave it at that. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. He just didn't like some of the energy in the stands and taking his daughter around that energy. All right. Let me get back to this thing. Speaking of which, okay. That's yeah, T Riddler, that's a Scooby-Doo. Ruh-roh. And that you see is the real issue. The WNBA and women's sports in general need more women to care. Notice I didn't just say women, I said more women. The WNBA's audience is 75% women, but those 75% make up a small fraction of the population. We need more women to read, watch, and soak up women's sports the same way men do. Why is this thing doing this? Okay, guys, I'm going to refresh this one more time. And if this thing comes back, this pop-up keeps coming back, then I'll just bag the whole thing in because I think you guys get the point at this point. Freaking Huffington Post. All right, let's go back. All right. We need more women to read, watch, and soak up women's sports the same way men do men's sports. Think about it. Half the population in the United States is made up of women. If every woman in the country tuned into the WNBA, it could stand on its own 2 feet. It's one thing for women to have no interest in sports in general, not to care about the WNBA. But I've encountered women who actually play basketball and played in college, and they are meh about the WNBA. Even females who are actually interested in sports balk at the WNBA, including professional sports writers. Stacey Pressman, who writes female affirming and supportive prose in ESPN magazine's The Body Issue, wrote this far less than glowing review of a WNBA game, and she isn't the only female writer to do so. Okay. Let's see. We're almost done here. Last year, in a bold yet seemingly desperate move, that the WNBA launched a marketing campaign that focused on the LGBT fans holding public events at lesbian clubs and pride parades. While I get why they are focusing on inclusion and targeting this particular market, it's also very narrow-minded. When I say women, I don't just mean gay women. I mean all women, straight, gay, married, single, athletic, non-athletic. For some reason, there's a disconnect between women and the act of consuming women's sports, particularly the WNBA. Okay, so I just mentioned the Uber driver who didn't like the energy at the WNBA games. Well, that was it right there. Okay, and I'm not saying anything bad about that particular demographic, but I think some parents considering taking their daughters to games, I think they're also mindful of what's going on in the stands and who's also there. Antdog, thank you for coming through. He says, salute Doc and the chat. All right. Some women I question say they are fans, but they can never find a game to watch on television. Others say the WNBA is on during the time of year when most people are doing summer type things instead of in the house watching sports. And others just say they have no interest, period. The WNBA recently hired a new president of operations past February to address the issue at hand. Lisa Borders, a former Coca-Cola executive, is now tasked with the responsibility of increasing viewership of the league. She has to figure out a way to market a product to a core fan base that isn't exactly interested in the actual product. The situation is kind of like marketing gourmet ice cream to a group of people who are mostly lactose intolerant. It's a hard sell. When it comes down to it, though, it's not about the product. It's not about the looks of the players either. It's not about the cut of the uniform. It's not about skill. It's not about men or what they want. It's about women viewership, pure and simple. The WNBA needs more women to watch in order to stay viable. It's no secret the NBA has been carrying the league since its inception. The following truth is hard to swallow, but it's the truth nonetheless. The WNBA would be defunct right now if it weren't for the NBA. Okay. I think this is the end, and I don't have to worry about this pop-up anymore. It's ironic that the WNBA, a female-centered league and organization, is hurting largely because of the lack of interest from its own gender. In order to truly stand on its own 2 feet, earn the respect its players so deeply deserve, and separate this freaking thing. We're going to get this ending. Hold on. Antog said, Antog, I'm not going to read that. You're going to get me in trouble. All right. It's ironic that the WNBA, a female-centered league and organization, is hurting largely because of the lack of interest from its own gender. In order to truly stand on its own 2 feet, earn the respect its players so deeply deserve, and separate itself from the NBA, the WNBA needs women to step up. Because without women, there is no WNBA. Okay. So that's something that's not, at least to my knowledge, being widely talked about in this whole discussion. And if you think about all of the supporters of the Barbie movie, the women who go run after Beyonce, Taylor Swift, if you think about all of that, what if those dollars were going to the WNBA? Then we wouldn't be having this discussion. Okay. All right. So I'm going to show 2 more links quickly, and then I'm going to wrap up. Let's see. This one, that's the data. So President Biden got on the propaganda train, and he made some comments about the gender pay gap as it related to the WNBA. But some of these links are brutal. But this, I'm not going to read this piece. This is I might take this one out because I think YouTube will see this as spam. But this title reads: WNBA Commissioner defends Caitlin Clark's salary after Joe Biden's fierce criticism. So he weighed in and said it's atrocious. You know, he virtue signaled, he pandered. Unfortunately, the WNBA commissioner came in and said, "Knock it off, Joe. Stop spreading that propaganda." My brother has an idea. My brother Amal Dunbar is here in the chat. He says, "Hey, bro, I have a new format for the W. The first quarter is standard 5-on-5. The second quarter is 2 3-on-3 half-court games. The third quarter is 4-on-4 full court. The fourth quarter is standard 5-on-5. Thoughts?" Well, I think the issue is you need more women to come watch it. So regardless of what you do, you need more women to come watch it. Okay, in terms of what the 2 leagues generate, I have 2 figures here. Okay, this one is entitled the NBA versus the WNBA revenues, a closer look at the earnings in men's and women's pro basketball. This is from April of this is from this month. This is 2 weeks ago. There's Steph Curry and darn, I don't know who number 20 for the New York Liberty is. Maybe I'm part of the problem. All right, but there were some numbers in here that I wanted to highlight for you guys. Okay. As per WSN, the WNBA generated around $60 million in revenues in 2023, which comes from 12 teams in the league. Compared to the WNBA, the NBA generates $10 billion in revenue, which is generated through 30 teams across the league. Okay, so you're almost comparing apples to oranges here. One league is bigger, one league is smaller. One league generated $60 million, which to each of us is a lot of money, but spread that out over, a couple hundred players, that's not a lot of money. And the NBA itself generated $10 billion in revenue. Okay. So it's a much bigger pie that you're divvying up. All right. Of the 60 million revenue, if the $60 million revenue that the WNBA generates, 12.3 million is distributed among players, which is 20.5% of the league's total revenue. Okay. While the NBA distributes 53% of its revenue to the player's salary. And the NBA has kept increasing every year in terms of money generation and players making money. Okay, so overall, it's a bigger pie, and it's a product that's just selling better. Okay. So this link is below in the description box in case anyone wants to read it. That summarizes the economics of this whole thing. And then I have a metric here that I think is a nice proxy for the viewership for the WNBA. So this comes from Traffic Analytics, WNBA.com. So this is measuring traffic to the WNBA website. And there's one data set here, one figure that I am going to focus on. This link is below in the description box. Okay. So here, this is entitled WNBA.com website traffic demographics. So these are people who are going to the website, because if you go to the website, you're interested in the games and you're interested in the product. Okay, so this is a proxy for viewership of the games. So this figure says, I'll read the subtitle. Audience composition can reveal a site's current market share across various audiences. WNBA.com's audience is 60.39% male and 39.61% female. Okay, the largest age group of visitors are 25 to 34 years old. But that's a key stat right there. The website's traffic is more male than it is female. Okay, and I think that's reflective of what you see in the stands and in the arenas. Okay, I'm gonna read that again. This link is below in the description box. So, in terms of traffic to the WNBA website, 60.39% is male and 39.61% is female. So that's telling you that overall men are just more interested in this than the women are. Okay. And I think that until they fix that or they come up with a solution for that, maybe it's my brother's solution here. Maybe this will do it. But until they figure out how to get more women into the stands, buying tickets, buying popcorn and soda and merch, you're still going to have this lopsided thing where there are more men supporting it than there are the women. So taking this back to the beginning, I just thought this would be interesting to do, because for the Women's Final Four, for the WNBA draft, going forward, as we all look at what Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all of them do, all these things will probably continue to be smashed together. The basketball, the race, the media propaganda, the gender pay gap, okay? And to the public, the misconstruing of the actual economics of this situation, okay? Because if you're not making the money, it's going to be hard to give similar salaries to the men's league. And everybody, that's all I wanted to say. That's all I wanted to cover tonight. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I want to cover tonight? No. And I think this is important. Again, I want to, encourage on this channel thinking. And when someone says something, because people get passionate today, maybe you don't always believe what they say. Sometimes people say things passionately and they don't know what they're talking about, or to themselves they sound right, but they may not actually be right. And actually, I was reading The Four Agreements yesterday. It's one of my favorite books, and the author stated, your opinion is nothing more than what you think. I'm trying to get this right. I was trying to memorize it. It's not necessarily fact. Your opinion is not necessarily fact. It's the way you're seeing it. So people often talk as though their opinions are facts, but a lot of times people are wrong. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up, everyone. I'm working on finishing my book. My brother's there. He's helping me with something. Those of you, I'm getting ready to send out the May. I felt a sneeze coming on. The April-May newsletter. There is a surprise for those of you who read the April-May newsletter. There's something in there at the end that a lot of people don't know. It's something else I've been working on, but I haven't shared it. Openly. So if you want to know what that is, well, if you're already a part of my email list, you just go to the bottom of this newsletter. I'm going to send it out. I'm going to send it out as soon as I get finished here. But if you want to know what that is, there's a 2-paragraph greeting here. This link is in the description box. You just click this, and it takes you there to that box, and you sign up. But there's a little surprise at the end of that I haven't told everybody, so that I haven't shared with everybody. It's not a big deal. I'm not dying tomorrow or anything, but that's there. All right, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and get ready to go into work tomorrow, and hopefully eat before it gets too late. So thank you to everyone who watched and supported. If you're watching on the playback and you want to make a donation to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are in the description box. And you can also leave a super thanks. This channel is monetized, so it has a super thanks feature. But my Cash App and PayPal are there, and they're right here if you feel so moved. But with that, I'm going to wrap this up, everyone. If you're watching on the playback, let me know what you think in the comments section below. And thank you for watching. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.